Hey, everybody. Welcome back to ACES53 with Ed Parco and myself. And as you know, today is a Thursday. So what do we do on Thursdays? Thursdays when we have a special guest, someone we call the Joker. Why do we call him a Joker? Because like in the game of cards, it's someone with a special skill or talent that we're bringing to you guys, can help you in your life, in your business. And so today we have Renee Vee.
Hold on. You got to do this. Great job for that opener. That was
yes, that was really good.
Yeah, you finally got it down. It only took 1.5 years.
That's right. So we do call her Renee Vee because, as you can see by her last name, we're never going to be able to say it right. So she wanted to make it nice and easy for everyone. But I met Renee last year when we both spoke at an event called Impact Effect 23. And as a matter of fact, we'll be seeing each other next week because in addition to you putting on your own events, which we're going to talk about in a second, you join and make yourself a part of events as well. So we're going to see each other next week. But what we really are having you here for this week is tell us a little bit about your journey from where you started and what you did for a lot of time and what your career is now, along with speaking and hosting events.
But first,
yes,
say your last name so people know how to say it.
Sure. So the speech therapist in me always breaks it into fours. It's phonetic. So Vardunyotis.
Vardunyotis.
Vardunyotis. Yes.
Is that part of the Star Wars?
I don't know. It's a part of some Greek mountain somewhere. I think it's named after. My in-laws are extremely proud of it. Mm-hmm. So is my husband. But I am. I'm at the point where it's annoying.
Well, I feel bad for your husband because I saw him and met him, and he's probably around my age. And we had to fill out Scantrons, and that's a really long last name to have to send and keep bubbling in over time.
Correct. And in fact, I don't think the Scantron is long enough.
Yeah.
I think it's capped at like 10 letters or something, and ours is 12. So I remember that for friends of mine who had long names that they cut it off at a certain point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So kids don't have that problem these days.
No, they have many other problems though that we didn't have.
Yeah, they do.
So I'm grateful for the problem of the Scantron sheet and not all the other mental illness that's going on out there.
Well, there was something I was watching the other day. They were like, what do you miss about not having a cell phone? Before that. And I'm like, the fact that when you were gone, you were gone.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Nobody could get a hold of you.
Yep.
Well, I think it's the same thing with work wise is previous to laptops. When you left the office, you'd left the office.
Yep.
Nobody could call you. You couldn't check email. It was like, all right, you got a fax at the office. Good. I'll check it tomorrow. Yeah. There was the stress of having to work 24 hours a day.
And hopefully that heat pages would disseminate so you couldn't read it the next day.
That's right.
Yes. And I still find it funny when people have fax. I had to fax something the other day and I said, who faxes anymore? But it's still a thing.
Yeah. For some accountants, they'll only fax because it's the only secure way to get it over.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I'm like, okay, well, it's 2024. I still have a number because I'm in the mortgage industry. So we still have it to take electronically, but I probably got one fax a year now, if that.
We had to fax some stuff, and I just went and downloaded an app. It took a picture of it and mimicked it, and
Exactly. I mean, that's the beauty of actually what the technology has brought to us, right? I mean, it doesn't need, we don't need a separate machine. Everything is here, what we're on right now.
Right.
So that kind of there are pluses. I just think there's a lot of negatives.
There are. So on the episode Ed and I recorded earlier that went out on Tuesday, we talked about being in Philly last week for your event. And so that was one of the things that's really unique is a lot of people want to get known, want people, get their message out there, but they want other people to put them on stages. And you've done that, but you decided to work with Mitzi and you guys came together. You met. Tell us a little bit about how you met Mitzi and how Rich Thinking became a thing.
Okay. Mitzi and I met in it's kind of a group, a business mastermind group that we are both a part of. And when you join things like this, nothing but good things come out of it. So you make connections, people who are just, impact driven and service driven. So they're not looking to sell you their product. They're looking to help you move forward with whatever you're doing, with whatever resources that they have.
Yeah.
So in joining this group almost 2 years ago, I met Mitzi, who lives about an hour and a half from me. So anyone who lives in Pennsylvania, I say, well, let's meet up. Like, as long as it's, within driving distance and not having to take a day off and things like that. So we met for lunch twice. And the second time was a really powerful little mastermind we had together at the table at a restaurant, talking about how we enjoy personal development so much, and we travel for conferences. I mean, there's no time I haven't gotten on an airplane to go to a conference. So it's a big undertaking. It's not as easy. It's never convenient. I say that all the time because people are always like, oh, I don't want to go to that. It's not convenient. But when you're really driven to make a big impact and help others at a really high level, these are things you need to do. It's a part of the gig. So I said to her, I was researching Philadelphia, events or personal development in Philadelphia, and nothing was coming up. So I said, okay, there's a market for this. I said, how cool would it be if we threw a conference? And she goes, I think that's a great idea. Let's do it. And it was that quick. It was that easy. And then we were sitting there thinking about names. This was back in May of 2024. So not too long ago. She and I said, okay, well, we really are interested in bringing all the facets of wealth there. We don't want it to be all social media strategies and where to invest your money. We wanted it to be an enlightening day of learning from each other and really, powerful speakers on the different areas of wealth in our lives. Obviously monetary is part of that, money, but all the other areas of our life that we have wealth in. So our health, our relationships, our family, you name it. We have wealth. We can build wealth in all areas, and wealth doesn't necessarily mean money.
Right.
It could, and it should, we need money to live, but it's not, we didn't want it to be the main focus of, this will make you more money or, money. Because I've been to conferences like that sometimes when you are in the throes of entrepreneurial journeys, you're not making any money. So for you, it's like, well, I would invest if I had it, but I don't. So both of us were very inspired by the book Think and Grow Rich. And I said, I would love to name it something along the lines of that, whether we pull a line of, some wording from that. And she's looked at me and she said, rich thinking.
Yeah.
And I said, that's it. Boom. So that's kind of where it began. And then from there, we're both come from education backgrounds. So we're both pretty methodical in how we work. And it was really helpful that we didn't even know how well we work together. We just said, we're going to give this a try. And it ended up being a beautiful, synergy of skill and planning between the two of us.
Right. You played off each other well.
Very well.
So what I want to kind of pause for the people that are in the audience, and I know your story, but they don't. People think, oh, well, after I've been in business for 5-10 years, then I'm going to throw an event. What's your employment and career background? Because I think that's an interesting factor.
I am a trained, certified, and licensed speech language pathologist. I've been working in schools since 2002. And that career path has taken me, so far as to have really great experiences with families, understanding child development, understanding the importance of communication. But after a while, I don't think I was ever the type to say, this is my career. I'm going to go into, the 40-year hole of education and then get my retirement, get my pension, and move on from there and live off of that the rest of my life. That was a piece of it for me because obviously the security of that. But when I started really diving into personal development, I realized that we can do those things before we retire. We don't need to wait till we're in our 60s to use our money for the better of the earth. And I feel like there's always that carrot dangling in front of you when you're in education. Oh, you get benefits and you have summers off and all these things. And every educator deserves all of that plus more. But it also leaves you thinking that this is it for me. And you can become complacent.
Same.
And
it's every job, right? Oh, well, the longer you stay, the more vacation time you get.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what
I'm
locks
sorry, all I'm
people
thinking
in.
about is Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
yeah. Well,
Yep.
and that's a book, exactly, and that's
Is that a book?
I know. Well, I said that's the book that you and I talked about on Tuesday, and you're right. That was the book that changed it for me. Was reading that and going, well, crap, I'm in the wrong place. You know, and I'm thinking about it wrong.
Yeah, but it's kind of like everything else, you know, where we're put in boxes, right? We go to elementary school and we go to middle school, we go to high school, we go to college, we get a job, we find a relationship, we get married, we have kids, and that is what people think is success,
Right.
In society. The masses think that that's success.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're comfortable, I'm doing well, you know, I'm having my paycheck. And Brian, you know, you were making well over 6 figures multiple times. And did it bring you the joy and peace in your heart that you thought it would? Probably not.
No, not at all.
And be understanding now how our mind works and how we have these higher faculties that no other living being on the earth has to use.
Mm-hmm.
Our imagination is the number one that gets squashed when we go to school.
Right.
So it's, you know, you're looking out the window and you get labeled as ADHD because you're not paying attention, which could be very much the case, but a lot of times it's not.
It's an easy category to throw kids into. Yeah.
Creative children are not going to do well in school because what they're learning it's not in the wheelhouse to learn about these very specific things that our country, our you know, society has made important for us to learn.
So,
all right. So, do you not own a business? I'm just
okay.
That's where I was getting ready to go. That's where I was getting ready to go.
Sorry.
We only have a 30-minute show.
This
is your life. We're not going to have all these people come in. Do you know who this is?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's an old show, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. So I ended up going into personal development in 2020, made a huge realization that this was my purpose, was to take the concepts I was learning and make them palatable and digestible for the youth. Life school, I call it, because we don't learn this stuff in school. We learn it in life. And sometimes it's a little too late. So I created Mighty Minds Academy, which is my business, Ed, and what I do. And it is a very easily accessible online platform where it's me teaching about the power of your thoughts, how to set worthy goals, emotional intelligence. I mean, you name it. I have 18 topics that I speak about and I teach on, and it has applicable activities. And we meet once a week when you're in the program to go over those activities and to make sure that we're applying what we're learning, right? Because if we can put something in front of a child's face and they can say, oh yeah, I'll learn it. And this is what happens in school. They memorize, they regurgitate, then they forget. But because the concepts that I teach on are so relatable to who you are, it's all about you. It's again, it's a school of you. It's life school, but it's a school of you. You learn more about yourself than you ever would just going through our typical education system.
Yeah.
So not to knock the education system, but this is what I call a bridge between what our kids are learning in our formal education and what they need to learn to thrive and succeed in life.
Oh, and you mentioned it.
Hold on. Renee, I'm not trying to be a jerk about so I do radio, and on radio, when you ask a question, the person has 1 to 3 minutes. That's max long to answer things. So I try to bring that into podcasting because that is how you keep people's attention.
I'm with you.
Yeah. And so, but I know Brian has a thing here, but my first thought with you is, have you thought about doing what you do for adults who are going to speak on stage? Because there are so many people who don't know how to speak, or even help them with podcasting and talking, all that kind of stuff, because your speech part that you have would be essential to them.
Yes. I think you're learned by knowing who I am, that I'm open to most things. How people think where I have value is where I want to be. I want people who want me. Right. I don't want to go chasing people. So if there's a need for that, I 100% could fulfill it. So yes, that's actually something I'm going to put on my list. So thank
What?
you.
I just because they have the money to pay.
Right.
Correct.
That's
Well, you
what.
said that
So you can
backwards,
still
though.
give to the youth, because your knowledge is wasted on them, and we'll move on. But with adults who want to, everybody wants to do things better, but they don't all speak well. I don't speak well, but I do the best I can, and I've read things, listened things, watched things. But if you have somebody who this is my specialty, and because what's Joel's name? The speech guy that helped
Joel Olson, Weldon, Joel Weldon.
Joe Weldon.
Yeah.
He's really good at helping people, but he's not going to be around forever. So
Right.
there needs to be somebody else who comes in behind that, who has a background. And I don't think he has any background in actual speech. He just has it from speaking.
Right.
Understood. Yeah. Well, thank you, Ed. That's amazing. Yeah.
I'm good at telling other people what they should do. It's just hard for me to tell myself what to do.
Well, I'm in your boat. I'm in your boat. I get it.
So I may have misheard it, but I think what you said, Renee, was I'm not open to new things. And you meant to say I'm very open to new things.
Oh, I'm not closed to anything.
You're not
I'm
closed
open
to, okay.
Yes, there you go.
She only
Thanks,
teaches speech. She doesn't say she uses it.
Yeah. Well, and so you wouldn't know this, Ed, but because I was with Renee last week, they actually do help adults. And what they found is sometimes the adults go through the course first and realize the impact and then want to teach it to the children. And so what Renee and I were talking about is really, if you could get parents and kids to do it at the same time and learn at the same confidence levels, and that's really what, she covered a variety of subjects, but it's about building confidence in both children and adults.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you come back, you learn the material, you have to meet with her to understand how do you impact it, how do you apply it. And if there's anything kids are missing this day and age, it is confidence. And if their parents getting better while they're getting better, it creates a family momentum versus a person momentum.
And I totally get that. But again, I raised 5 kids. I understand children. And, most of them will go, if I need to learn that, I'll just watch a YouTube video.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's so true. That's the society we're living in. And if you want to fix your table, that's a great way to figure it out. But if you want to fix your mindset, it's not. Because actually listening to some of those motivational things is great. But are you applying any of that? Are you really learning? And that takes it takes coaching to do that. Coaching is the only thing that really can help you with that.
And there's 2 things that need to change right now in this world. And this is my own opinion, getting rid of the word mindset and the word coaching.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be whatever you do needs to be something different than that, because it's so bad that when I do multiple podcasts and my Inner Edison podcast constantly get people who want to tell other business owners how to do stuff when they've never owned a business, but they want to coach and they think they can coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's so bad that even my statement, it says no gurus, no coaches, no quartermen, none of this at all. And they still try to come because they don't listen. They don't read.
So should I just call myself a legend and I can be on your podcast? That still works.
You've been
legend.
Dude, you've been on so many of my podcasts. That's not even like that.
I know.
And plus, we do one actually twice a week. So
we do. Oh yeah, we do.
So if there's some way you can come up, and this is what I tell everybody: come up with your own name for something and trademark it.
Right.
And
I love that.
I was explaining it to he's not a financial planner. He's more than that. I go, before you tell other people what you do, you should go come up with your own words, trademark them. And when you show it to them, then they can't go, you can't, somebody else can't do it. Well, they could, they just need to trademark their own names that they come up with.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
she's very familiar because Coach Burt was at her talk. And that's one of the things he talks about is how he, Pray Drive is his thing. He then went out and trademarked it. That's his word.
It's not Pray Drive. It's Pray Drive.
Oh, there you go. It's true. He doesn't have a high-pitched voice.
Took me forever to understand. Is that P-R-A-Y or is that P-R-E? Yeah.
No, it's P-R-E-Y.
I know, but it took me forever. I was like, okay, which are you talking about? Because that little accent.
Maybe he's going for both, and it's doubling his audience.
I first saw him like 3 or 4 years ago, and he was at Steve's event in some hillbilly town. Yeah, can't think of it.
Well, and to your point, that's how with being a
I'm a redneck, so I can say that. Okay.
Yeah. Renee, how you met Mitzi is how I met Ed, right? And that is I spoke at Steve Sims Speakeasy. Ed and I hit it off, and Ed's like, let's do a podcast together. And we did. But what I think is really interesting about you two is you met in a mastermind. You both have separate businesses. You were happy to fly places, but you wanted to bring something to your local area.
Mm-hmm.
And so you guys came together, you reached out to speakers, you filled a room, right? And the really cool part is the room was a combination of people you've never met, people who came to support speakers who were there, and then people from your various masterminds that you've been to. So you brought in quite an eclectic crowd and reintroduced them to other people. But I will say one of the things that was really cool is you and Mitzi have a very strong support group. And it would have been even more people, except for there was an event and someone getting married the same time you were throwing your event, and people literally came to your event to speak and or attend and then drive how many hours to Craig's wedding?
3 hours.
3 hours? Yeah, the next day. So because he wasn't doing anything on Friday, people got up early the next morning to drive to a wedding in Long Island or wherever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a cool combination of people that came to the event. And and I've talked, there's a lot of people who have not been able to fill rooms to sell tickets, but you fit 50, 60 people in there in that room. And again, it was a busy weekend for a lot of people, or else there would have been 20 or 30 more.
Absolutely. So, you're right.
Yeah. But it was the main reason we want to talk about today is, like Ed and I have talked about, we should have an event. But you and Mitzi pulled the trigger on it and kind of creating what you want because you couldn't find it locally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you have a unique take on it. What you're doing, where Brian and I, what we talk about, there's a lot of different people doing the events. Even though we have a whole plan on how we're going to do it, we were both going, with the amount of people not being able to fill their seats, maybe we should just wait a year and see where everything's going. And I can see maybe next year a big, huge push for more events people going to after the uncertainty that's in the world right now.
Right.
So I disagree with you. I think you
can't disagree
the plan. What is stopping you is not that. It's you guys are not, you have a fear of not having enough people in a room.
No.
So what's stopping you?
First we were going to do it in Vegas. Now we're going to do it in Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah. So it had to do with me and my industry and what was going on with my industry and where I was at.
So if it's all planned out, what's stopping you?
Yeah. What is it, Brian?
We're just waiting, getting through this year. We've got our own attending events right now.
Well, that doesn't stop you from putting a date in the book.
True.
March 2025.
Yeah. What's stopping you?
Let's do February so we can spend Valentine's Day together.
So we didn't do that event, but I did a fire walk for veterans, a 2-day event.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then I'm doing that again in May 3rd of 2025. And that one's going to be even bigger. I have multiple people coming in, different keynote speakers for veterans who are all veterans who, overcame thing. And the keynote speaker for that is just going to wow everybody. So
my dad's a vet, so my heart, is with you. I think that's an amazing thing you're doing.
Yeah, it's just that the whole thing came out of it, from a podcast I was on, and the event is, 3 to 4 hours of motivational speakers, and at the end of the night is you do a walk across coals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so last year, the first one, we had somebody who worked for Tony Robbins for 20 some years actually run the fire walk. And we had them come out and help set it up. And I let them run it. And I said, okay, that's enough. Next year is all me running it, because we're going to run this like a military organization on time. This is what's going to happen. And this is how it's going to be. Not, because I was like, I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I hired these people. And they said, we can run it because we've done multiple of these. Okay, fine. Okay, you guys don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I learned that too about even just planning my event, of how a lot of people were giving me advice, and I'm grateful for it, but some advice was great. And I said, this is my event. I'm not, Brian gave me a lot of advice and I took him on it because, and he wouldn't have been offended if I didn't.
No,
but
not at all.
So I liked his ideas. So being in control of the situation it changes it for you, the whole experience, because you're usually going to someone else's event and they're, however they're planning it. Like the event I went to when I left on Saturday, the event was Sunday, was extremely different than what I did. Mm-hmm. So you get a chance to take a look at what they're doing, but I would have done a lot of things differently, if that makes sense. Not that I'm judging, but there were parts of it that I know I can help them with
Right.
for next year. So, yeah. And I'm also here for you too. I would love to be, if you needed any help with your planning of your event. And the first thing I'm going to do is tell you got to set a date and that's it. You got to put it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while you're talking about that, I mean, so you just had your event, you spoke an event, and what are you doing next week?
I'm going to another event. I'm going down to Nashville.
Right. But what are you going as?
Oh, I'm the stage manager.
Right. So it was a way for her to be part of it, to learn and to help and, be in the industry to see a different side of it. And that's, a lot of people could have gone total vanity metrics with like, well, my event went great. Why should I go learn or watch someone else's? But it's the way that you guys are putting yourself out there. So much like Ed and I go to events, we meet people. Ed hosted an event for the group. What's it called? Rotary. But that's what I like. And I just had this conversation.
Yes. It's Operation Firewalk.
Operation Firewalk.com.
But I put it on because I was the president of my Rotary and I wanted to do something for veterans that year. So you are correct. I just want to clear this slate.
Ed, are you a vet?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And this is my other podcast, Helping the Brave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love all of this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You guys we'll chat after we're offline because there's some other things too.
Because we only have a few more minutes anyway, because we like to keep it at 30.
I'm with you. Yeah. I love it. That's fine by me. So so I'm going down there, and in fact, Ed, I spoke on that stage last year. So this is, I'm still going. I'm not a speaker, but I told the Jim Morris, the event host, that I want to be of service. How can I help? And that's what came up. And now I get to tell Brian what to do.
That's right.
I'm there.
He's used to that. He's used to women telling him what to do.
Exactly. And the reason I mentioned that is I just had a conversation with somebody earlier today who wants to get into the speaking world, who wants to do things. And they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, there's so many different ways. You can buy the cheapest ticket, but make sure you're seen while you're there. You can pay for a VIP experience to get more access to speakers or things. You can join masterminds, but you can host your own event and invite people. I just listened to Grant Cardone's 10X Mentor, and he's like, that's why I started GrowthCon or 10X GrowthCon, is because I wanted to meet these people. I'll let my business pay for it, and other people, but I still get to meet them. So you can host your event, but then you can volunteer. What can I do to help someone else's event? Because it's you get access to it and without paying for it. So there's so many different ways to get yourself out there, and not everybody thinks about it. They just think, well, I'm not big enough to do something, or, well, I don't have the money to go VIP. That's fine. You don't have to. If you can, great. It's a great way when you get to go to speaker dinners and get up close access. But there's so many different ways that you can get yourself out there. And so that's why. Yeah.
Before you want to speak on stage, maybe you should go try it at a Toastmasters.
Yes. Well, what about Clubhouse?
Well, I have an even easier suggestion. Instead of you don't have to go anywhere. You could just go live. You can video yourself, put yourself out there on social media. It's really about practicing how you're speaking and then getting the feedback from the people. So you could do Toastmasters. I signed up for it. It wasn't for me.
I didn't say it was for everybody. I'm just saying.
But how I practice a lot is through either having a conversation with another speaker and having them listen to me, which is what I did for my past event, or even having some kind of masterclass on whatever it is you want to speak on, and try and invite people, and you video that, and you're able to replay it back to see how you did, or you send it to somebody to have them kind of tell you what to do, what not to do. Yeah. So, there's a lot of ways, to
get on people's podcasts.
I as soon as I decided I wanted to speak, I've been on, I think, 50 podcasts since. And some of them were new beginners that no one knew who they were. And I didn't care, because I felt like I was getting out there, practicing, answering questions. It's almost like an interview that you have to practice for if you want a job. So that was kind of my way to get those reps in. And how did I like the way that sounded? Did people pick up when I was putting down, when they were listening? And I don't even remember half of their names of these podcasts, but I just did whatever opportunity I could.
She just did mine last week. That really hurts.
See, I'm doing
me,
it right
small
now
ones.
with these
so
two.
for
I'm
me,
practicing. This is all for me.
yeah. So for me, I became the president of my Rotary, and I ran an event each week through Rotary, and I spoke each week for that hour, except for when we had the guests come on and talk. But I mean, I ran it for a year. That right there, I wish I would have done that 8 years ago. I wish I would have done that earlier, because that gave me even more confidence to not. And this is what I explain. People ask me why I did so many lives 2 years ago, and I'm like, to get to a point where I don't care anymore.
Right.
Exactly.
You're so natural. You just do it. You don't care. And everybody's like, wow, you're so smooth. Yeah, well, 10,000 hours will kind of do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
And no one sees that part, the grind that you do, the things you do. All they see is the result of it.
Yeah.
So they don't know what goes into it. I know what goes into it. Brian does too. And people will just sit back and admire, but don't understand the amount of work that goes into actually perfecting your craft, being able to present in a way that people respond to and resonate with. And so kudos to you, because that's brought you where you are now.
And talk radio helped because it was live. That's even worse, because you there's no editing. And that's why people ask me, do I edit my podcast? I'm like, no, because you should. Well, do you take the oohs and ahs out? I go, no, you just need to learn not to do them.
Mm-hmm.
Like my so's.
Dude, you were so bad for so long. You got better at it though.
Opus clips, man. Opus clips, looking at that and just seeing so. I'm like, damn it.
Yep.
And right.
Self-awareness.
Right.
That's your self-awareness. But you decided to make yourself aware of these things.
No, because we all got drunk when he would talk.
That off my words. Is that what you're saying?
Off your so's.
Yeah.
Every time you said so, we had to take a drink, and we were we were all like
Turn it
laying
into
on
a
the
drink.
floor by the time you were done 20 minutes later.
It's true. You have to. You mentioned being on podcasts. One thing that I suggest that I was not good at when I started is go back and listen to them later. And I know it's painful. None of us like our own voice except for Ed. He likes to talk to himself. But
I just know I have a good voice now that I finally put headphones on.
Exactly. But go and listen to the podcast you were on. Don't just run to the next one. Go and listen. Be like, and read the comments of the people. Look, someone put you on their podcast. Go and support the person. Read the comments. Answer the comments. Do what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's actually really smart. I didn't think about the comments. I don't even think some of them had any comments, but it doesn't matter.
Not all of them have. Brian, you're just so much further up there.
He's really advanced.
Yeah.
Ed, you know.
Hey, it's because of what Ed told me to do, and that is engage the haters. So before
that was different. That was okay. That two separate things here. One, the comments that you're first were saying we're taking as listen to the comments about our podcast and what we did on it. But we were talking about comments people do on the like cut ups, shorts, and other stuff we do.
Right.
How this all, and this is what Brian was going to say. What happened was I had one of my TikToks go viral because if you had this thing hack in there, everybody looks at it. Well, the people kept saying this guy's full of shit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And so I just started going, really, and I would engage them, and it went at the time which was the highest any of us done was 750,000 views.
Mm-hmm.
And good. Well, and then I told Brian, because we'd hear from everybody that we knew, what should I do with these hate comments? And we used to say hide and move on. Well, no, it's engage,
right?
Because they're going to hate you more and say more, and then get that algorithm working for you. And then Brian's now a king at it.
Yeah,
they do you a favor. They're doing you a favor.
Yeah.
So I have a whole thing.
Love
haters or helpers.
Yeah. Yep. People who love you will like occasionally like or whatever, but they won't comment. But people who don't like you will comment. And then other people will come to you and try to help you. So
yeah, it's true. It's true. But you're doing something right if you have haters, I've been told.
Exactly.
So, for me, it's like, bring it,
Yeah. We were at an event in San Diego, traffic conversion years ago, and my truck was there and it has my license plate on it, and all these Steve and all these people would take pictures in front of it, and I'm like, with haters like this, who needs
What does your license plate say?
It's my last name.
So what they don't like that you
they were all people we knew, but they were like Steve Sims and a bunch of other people who were you know, in all his group. And so they would make comments, and I'm like, well, with haters like this, I guess I really made it.
Yeah. So
Got
it's
it.
like
So-
ours. You know, if you've never watched to understand how most guys get along, you have to watch Gran Torino, the barbershop scene. Because that's really how guys treat each other. If guys don't harass each other, then you don't like the person.
Exactly.
You know.
Yep. I get it. I love that.
Yes. So, all right. I think I know the answer. I'm gonna put it down below. But what is the best way for people to reach out to you besides your Instagram there?
So Renee at reneevee.com is my
Mhm.
email. I love getting emails from people on that newly minted email address that my friend Brian encouraged me to have. I kicked my Yahoo to the curb.
Not your AOL?
Yeah, no, I never had AOL, or I had Hotmail at one point, I think, but Yahoo's been a favorite of mine. I don't know what it's just my name from
There
a
you
long, you know, yeah, that's the best way to contact me.
Sure.
Or, you know, obviously you can message me on any of the socials that I'm on, and I love to meet new people. So please do that.
Right. So what would
Is that your
people reach
website
out?
too, reneevee.com? Yeah.
So no, right now my website is mightyminds.us. That is my business website. I'm shifting a lot of things right now, so I don't want to send people there because it's not the most up to date of what I'm doing and where I'm going. So it's a website you can go look at and see about my programs. I have some things in the works right now that are extremely exciting that might pull me away from that. So for a while. So email me and social media is where you're going to get the most updated version of Renee.
Perfect. All right.
Thanks for
Ed,
being here.
You want to take
Thank
us
you for
out?
having me.
No, it's our pleasure.
Great to meet you, Ed.
Nice to meet you too. We'll have to do something in the future.
Would love it.
Without Brian, of course.
So hurtful.
That's how we are. We're brutal.
That's good.
All
We're
right,
just gonna talk trash about you next week when I'm with her live.
There you go. You can
Yeah.
He was such a great guy.
Yeah.
He helped me so much.
I also want to know about your 5 kids moving forward. We have to have full blown conversations about
Why?
that.
They're all moved on. They're all doing their own thing.
It doesn't matter. They're still your children.
Are they?
I don't
Dude,
know.
you're over
I'm
18.
very
They're out.
curious of what
You're on
kind of
your
father
own.
you are.
I helped move them. I told him I helped move you once. And then that's not out of the house. That's the next move out of wherever you're
Got
at.
it.
One time, because otherwise I'd be moving your ass all the time.
Well, 5 of them, that's a lot. I have 2 and I feel like I have 10. So I'm always curious when people have that many children.
I adopted my wife's 3 kids.
Okay.
And
Still
when we
your
got
children.
married, and then 2. No, they're their birth certificate says my last name on them.
Mhm.
So everything. And so then I had 2 children from previous marriages. So, and I said marriages.
Oh, that's a whole other story we're gonna have.
No,
to
it's just you have to learn. And I tell people you have to make a list of what you want in that person. And until you do that, you're going to make mistakes. You'll date everything and start over and over.
Yes.
So we should just leave it right there. And we can talk about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate you. Renee, again, thank you for being here. Brian, thanks for being part of this. And the best way you can support us is to go to our YouTube channel, ACES53, and just subscribe. And we're here on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific and 12 Central. And forget East Coast. All right, everybody, make it a great day. We'll talk.